Hi, my name is Phil Colcord, and I'm president of Fraternal Order Police Evergreen Lodge 1 here in Kitsap County. And this is our outreach program, where we bring different outreach programs that are available in Kitsap County to you, the public, to see, to help you identify the needs that you might have in your family. Today I have the search and rescue for Kitsap County and for the county here, because even though this isn't your normal outreach program, if a family member is missing or lost, you need somebody, and you need to know what to do before you call and what's going to happen. So this show is good for everyone, because you never know if someone might come up missing or run away or something. So anyway, today I have Lieutenant Will Sapp with Kitsap County Sheriff's Office and J.B. Goessman with Kitsap Search and Rescue. Now, Will, tell me a little bit about the Sheriff's Office and Search and Rescue.
The Sheriff's Office oversees, in Washington State, there's an RCW that requires the Chief Executive Law Enforcement Officer in that political jurisdiction to be in charge of any search and rescue operations. Most cities in Washington State have deferred that to the county, and that's true in Kitsap County as well. So we have a statutory requirement to oversee any search and rescue operations. I oversee that program. We have several search and rescue coordinators and some sergeants that get down and actually go out and run those searches. And we don't do the searching ourselves. We have 4 volunteer groups: Kitsap Search Dogs, Explorer Search and Rescue, Olympic Mountain Rescue, and a dive team. They're all volunteers that come in and actually do the searching for us. They're very good at it, but they're all unpaid volunteers. So we sort of just administrate and oversee that program.
Okay. Now, since we know about the program, let's hear just a little bit about you. Your time with the Sheriff's Office, and just a brief overview.
Okay. I spent 9 years at the Bainbridge Island Police Department as a police officer and a detective up there. Came to the Sheriff's Office, and I'm now a patrol lieutenant, so I oversee search and rescue, the Marine Unit, the bomb squad, the traffic unit, a couple other things.
You wear a lot of hats there, huh?
I do. That's why it's all the hats rubbing my hair off.
Okay, very good. And JB, tell us a little about you.
My background is in healthcare. I was a practicing endodontist here in the community for about 25 years. And in the last few years of that, the last 10 years total, I've been involved with Kitsap County Search Dogs, training up my own dog, now onto the second dog, and at present I'm the chairperson of Kitsap County Search Dogs.
Okay, thank you. And what's your involvement besides the chairman with Search and Rescue?
Right, so we're a small unit. We're about 15 handlers, so we also all of us have to wear several hats for fundraising, PR events, and then of course going out under the Sheriff's Office when we're going out on missions or deployments. This last month has been fairly busy. We've I think hit 3 or 4, but we'll generally go ahead and see probably maybe 30 deployments a year, something along those lines. So a deployment is going to be just going out almost always just for one day. It's rare that we have multiple day deployments. Take the dogs out and work with the local leadership of that county and start trying to find whoever they're looking for.
Okay, thank you. This question I'm going to ask you first, Will, and then I'll pass it on to you, JB. What should a family person do if they think someone's missing or doesn't come home? So,
we'd like them to call us sooner than later. We get some calls where someone will call and say, Grandma walked off into the forest last night and we looked for her all night, and now we're calling you in the morning. We'd rather get that call right away. We get a lot of calls right away where we're just still responding to the house and they find the person, whether it's a missing person, adult, child.
But that's a good thing, right?
That's a great thing. We would much rather be on the way and cancel than be notified too late.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. And when they're don't come home before they get there, what do? You get called out?
We do. But we would also like to be called off before it's time before we actually get there, as opposed to, well, we really didn't want to bother you. We really didn't want to, cause a big production. We would really like to be called off, but get the call early. There are, I guess a couple of things. Let us know if the person has ever walked off before, anything like that. If they have, have any places that they tend to like to go. In the case of a trailing dog, something like that, which we may get into the specifics of this later, oftentimes we'll rely on the family members to give us access to make a scent article. So that would be maybe a piece of clothing, shoes, sock, even bedding, something like that. But let the handler get that, as opposed to somebody else touching it and bringing it out.
And preferably something that's been worn rather than something out of the drawer that's
Correct.
Okay.
We love pillowcases.
Okay. Kind of going to bounce back around here. If lost children, or let's see, you got lost and missing. They're kind of two different things,
right.
I think. Okay, you got a child that didn't come home from school. Mm-hmm. What do you want to know from the family, ASAP, or when you get there, or so forth?
As far as like the child goes to school in the morning, just doesn't come home, kind of thing. A lot of the same stuff. Where might that child go if they want it? If they're assuming there's no foul play involved. Sadly, that's always in the back of our mind in times like that. We need to rule that out. But what's the child wearing? Do they have any health concerns? Do they have any friends they hang out with a lot? Places we can check where they might be, where it's just a fairly innocent misunderstanding that happens a lot. Grandma picked up Bobby at school and didn't tell mom. That happens pretty frequently. Start checking those areas to begin with.
Okay. On that note, if teenagers, if a teenager goes missing, and calls you, how do you handle that?
That all depends.
Okay.
Whether there's a history with that teenager of being a runaway, is this completely out of character? Are there any extenuating circumstances? Has the teenager been depressed lately?
I got a question on that we had one years ago, and the officer went out, and the teen had disappeared, ran off before, and said, well, we have to wait 24 hours before we can file a missing person report on her. And the mother did not want that to happen. And but we waited because that was the rule, the law, or whatever.
Right.
Well, we found the child dead, and it was a victim of a homicide. So, that's a precarious position to be in. Do you still have to wait 24 hours?
Absolutely not. No,
Right,
we enter them right away. In fact, we're required to enter them within a certain amount of time from the time that they call. They have to be entered into the computer system. That's a nationwide computer system.
That's good to know.
But as far as how aggressive our search efforts are, and what direction that investigation goes, really just all depends on the details of each individual one. Yeah.
Okay. What do you need to know from the family? You need an article. What do you need to know before you start your search?
Right. Pretty much the way that the information comes down to us is, first and foremost, what they've told law enforcement. Then that information typically goes to somebody within the SAR community who may be law enforcement, maybe somebody who has a lot of experience who's a civilian, and then that information then comes to us. If we have a specific question, so going back to like the scent article, something like that, something that's very specific, then we can run that back up the chain, so to speak, and things tend to work very quickly. But just what you were saying here earlier, that's exactly the kind of information that we need.
Okay. What got you involved in search and rescue dogs?
Daughters.
Daughters.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
That they wanted to do search and rescue. And so I was in that, and largely that was a adolescence, kids in high school, things like that. They seem to make up the majority of of those who are going into the search and rescue world. And once they were out of the house, my daughters, I kind of enjoyed doing it, but I kind of wanted to do something more with adults, which happened to be the canine side. So that's what drove me that way. Yeah.
And what kind of dogs are good for search and rescue?
Pretty much all your working breeds and sport breeds. So we see a lot of German short-haired pointers, German shepherds, certainly Malinois, Labrador retrievers. Pretty much any dog with a longer snout as opposed to a short snout. Those are typically not the best for what we're doing.
So any wiener dogs?
I've heard stories that there's
a
a
rumor
wiener,
there might be one out
there's
there.
a rumor that there's one wiener dog that's been extraordinarily successful.
And at what point, you kind of already answered this, but at what point do you call 911 for a missing person?
We want them to call railway. If you look through your house or your yard and you don't see your child, as an example, the moment when you realize that you're not locating that child and you think they might not be in the house, please call us right away. The first thing we're going to do when we come to your house is search the house for that child.
Check the closets.
And the reason we do that, more often than not, I would say 70% of the time, and it's oftentimes also the case with some elderly folks that might have some mental acuity issues. We'll get there and we'll have 4 or 5 family members who said, we've already searched the house, we've searched the shed, you don't need to look. And our deputies will go in and we'll find the kid hiding under a pile of clothes in a closet or something like that. People, when they're panicking and upset, they're not doing a very thorough job of that. So don't be offended when we tell you before we start looking out in the forest, we're going to check your house. Because, like I said, 3 out of 4 times that's where the kid is. It's inside the house in a crawl space or hiding in the dryer. We found him in there. But we'd much rather be called right away and get these guys going, because they're volunteers and most of them have jobs and they have to go home and get their stuff, and it takes them a little while to kind of mobilize. So we'd much rather get that call right away and then call everyone off than wait until now it's getting dark or it's getting colder or now it's raining, that kind of thing.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay, what's that type of discipline do you specialize in for these dogs?
Well, we have two main disciplines. We have tracking, trailing, and area. So the tracking, trailing is what typically people think of when they think of a search and rescue dog. That's to say the bloodhound on the long, long, long leash that's going, tearing through the neighborhood. And that dog generally is going to be the one that's going to be working off of the scent article that was procured from the house or somebody who had access to the house. And that dog is going to be looking for a specific individual. That's the big thing. And it should be able to give you an idea of not just where they are, but how they got there. So it's actually tracking where the individual went. Area dogs, on the other hand, are really looking for any human. And they work very, very fast, can clear a very large area, parks, trails, those types of things. Or if there's just not a scent article available, then we'll have the area or air scent dogs go looking there. And like I said, they tend to work very, very quickly, but they are going to be looking for any human, anybody who's out there.
Okay. Search and rescue, is it just paid by taxpayer dollars, or how's it paid for?
I'll have to defer to you on that.
As far as the coordination part of it, with the deputies in the sheriff's office, that's all taxpayer dollars. That's just part of our budget each year. With the volunteer groups, they're all not-for-profit organizations, and they survive, I think, primarily on donations.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do they have any grants out there for civilian search and rescue?
Yes, there are. So we go ahead and apply for grants periodically. There's some really good sources out there that we have people who are very familiar with grant writing who doggedly go after these groups every year or however often that they're allowed to do so. And otherwise, it comes out of our own pocket, the training, the transportation, those kinds of things.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a very good to have, especially, if you're a parent or your parents are missing, or one of your parents is missing, you're an elderly. Yeah, it creates a panic, and I've seen those people in that panic, and you want to help them. So I think you're a godsend to have the search and rescue out there. And having the sheriff's office coordinate it just makes it that more efficient, I would think. How are the human handlers trained?
In this county, we require that all of our handlers or prospective handlers go through the Washington Explorer Search and Rescue program that's here in Kitsap County. They do a wonderful job with training searchers, and of course every handler's got to be a searcher first. So things like first aid, CPR, wilderness navigation, all of your all the skills that you would need before you really should be messing with a dog really need to be in place. And then after that, once you're starting to work your dog, then you have to start doing the more dog specific things. So canine first aid, those kinds of things. And then you start getting into scent theory. How does odor travel? That type of thing. Throughout the day, as the day warms up, where does it go? What can you expect you're going to run into in the field? And then with specifically your dog, what are the tells that your dog gives you? What's that body language that it displays when you know it's getting close, when it's getting into scent, when it's getting close to that find? So it ends up being this continuous process of
getting to know your dog.
Getting to know your dog. It's a big deal.
But we're getting close on time here. When civilians, search and rescue people are out there, is the law enforcement assist them or coordinate or?
Sometimes, and it depends. That's all situational. It depends on what we're doing. If it's the middle of the day, they're pretty well identified as search and rescue and what they're doing. I mean, bright orange vests, search and rescue all over them. We've had times where it's been a nighttime, maybe it's close to the water, we're worried about tides, and so we really want to go and wake some people up along those waterfront houses. And so we'll send deputies with them to go knock on doors.
So it's kind of a need to have them there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and do you what do you do with the dogs as far as when they're out there doing their job to protect them?
Depending upon the kind of search it is, again, it's situational from time to time. Sometimes, if the area is not too big, we like to do a walkthrough by ourselves so that we can really see, is there going to be any problem out here? Everybody knows about the fentanyl issues with humans. Dogs have the same problem. If they're down there sniffing away and all of a sudden they roll over on their side, we have to assume that maybe they got into something. So to protect them, we carry emergency medications for them, very much like human medications would be. And then just be well aware of puncture wound possibilities, those types of things that you might be concerned about if you're having to move quickly through an area that you haven't been able to walk through already.
You got anything final that you'd like to add regarding Will?
I just want to point out again that all of these folks, and there's a lot of them, they're all doing this on their own time. I'm not kidding when I say we'll call them at 3 in the morning on a Wednesday, and it'll be, it's 35 degrees and raining, and they show up right away, and they're excited, and they're smiling, and they're happy to be there. It astounds me. But they give up their own personal lives to come out and do this to help other people, and they do it not only for free, but like JB was saying, a lot of times they're paying a lot of this out of their own pocket. So I mean, they're really kind of heroes in our community, to be honest. I mean, we're out there doing it. We're getting paid. It's our job. They're doing it because they want to.
Yeah, and they're a silent hero.
Right.
So, Hero, you got anything you'd like to say?
Just it's a pleasure working with the colleagues here in the community to try and do the right thing for folks who are having probably a pretty bad day.
Oh, I imagine if their loved one's missing, they're having a bad day.
Yeah.
I'm glad you're out there, and like Will says, I think we're all proud, and it's a blessing to have search and rescue out there, to know that you can call somebody. The hardest part for when you're in a tragic situation is, who do you call, or how do you call, or what do you call? It creates a problem. Okay, well, I think that pretty much closes us up for today for this one. You guys have, down the road, you have something else you want to put out there, give me a call, and we'll get you back on here. Okay?
Will do.
I thank you both for coming in, and that concludes our show. And thank you for watching, and I hope you got some good information out of it. And we'll be back again down the road. So stay safe out there and have a great day.